dining room. State dining room.
Let's walk around up on the other side of this thing.
Cut through the house. A lot of times it's difficult for modern minds, at least from the New World, to wrap their heads around 2,000 years. 2,000 years is more than 200 with just an extra zero. There's just a lot that happens in there. Imagine very much. It's difficult in the forum sometimes because you really have to stretch your heads around what it might have looked like. Here, we're walking through people's rooms. That's the Circus Maximus. This is where Ben-Hur does his thing. This is not a public area. It's a really exclusive neighborhood. Those two temples are built because of what's there under those sheds. Augustus built his house over there. There's the remains, just a little bit that's left of the temple to Apollo, and this brick structure that's closest to us here, that's the house of Livia, Augustus's wife. The cistern is a well that they built right up here when Augustus built his house. It's a 2,000-year-old cistern, which is not so terribly old for up here, because remember, going back here, you got a history that goes back another 800 years before Caesar Augustus. By the time Caesar Augustus takes power, what that shed is sheltering was already legend. This stuff is laid down by Nero. It's an old Greco-Roman idea. The outsides reflect the insides. That's true about your bodies. It's true about your homes. It's true about your downtown areas when you're the emperor. If you are powerful, then you look powerful. Powerful is big. It's big. Now we're gonna walk right down into the valley. We're at the base of the Palatine Hill. Brutus has got a house up there. This is the road they're walking on to go to work every day. It's the road that Caesar walks up and down. Cleopatra's in town. She gets carried on a litter right down the road that we're walking on.
Hoping I can clear the way by
Caesar's called a special session of the Senate to vote on a war that has absolutely no purpose other than to get quick cash for the social programs that they don't want in the first place. He's going to join them at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It's the 15th of March. A few days earlier, a soothsayer had said, "Hail Caesar, beware the Ides of March." She's like, yeah, whatever. He's been having bad dreams though, and so is his wife. He's getting ready for work in the afternoon on this day of the 15th. His wife is going, "Oh honey, just call in sick. Stay home. Stay home." Like, I should stay home because you're having bad dreams? You gotta be kidding me, I got work to do. Straps on his toga, heads out across town, unguarded as usual. The story has it he walks through the streets and that same soothsayer, "Hey, Caesar! Didn't I warn you about the Ides of March?" She goes, "Hun, they've come." She says, "Oh, but they haven't gone yet, have they?" He says, "Whatever." Goes on down across town to Pompey's old theater where the Senate's meeting. As he walks into the portico, Mark Antony pulled out to the side. Just one guy can screw this thing up. Caesar sits down in his chair, rubs his hands. "Okay, boys, what do we got?" A man approaches him whose brother, Caesar, had banished, appealing for the return of his brother. Caesar predictably says, "Ixnay, go on with you, I got work to do." The guy grabs him by his cloak, hoists him up out of his chair. Caesar famously responds, "But this is violence." That's the cue. Got senators that break ranks, come down, take daggers hidden from inside their togas, and according to the story, or at least one of them, each stab him one time. Rather symbolic. Not political rivals of moving an opponent, but SPQR, Senatus Populusque Romanus, the Senate and people of Rome, removing a tyrant. Pandemonium. One story has Brutus running through town with his bloody knife. "We're free of the tyrant! We're free of the tyrant!" Who else in town is excited about this? No one. Caesar's their guy. Caesar's the guy who's been helping them eat again and putting them back on the map politically and socially. They whisk his body back up here to the old Senate house. 3 days of rioting. It's like South Central LA, early 90s. Some people responding to the events, some people responding to the people responding to the events, some people flipping over cars and stealing TVs because they can. Demanding to know what's going on. Thousands of people packed in this square. Mark Antony says, "Let me talk to them." Shakespeare puts him right on top of that low platform on the other side of those olive trees, the rostrum. Friend, Roman, countryman. Although Mark Antony, although he's an aristocrat, he was really just a guy. He was probably more like, "Hey y'all, listen up. My friend Brutus is a good man. My friend Brutus is a friend of Rome. He's done much for the Republic. What about Caesar?" Starts talking about all the stuff that Caesar said as a kid, 25 years old in the Senate. What about Caesar putting his money where his mouth is, sending back treasure from Gaul to house widows and feed orphans? What about Caesar when he comes back from Gaul, puts his money where his mouth is? What about Caesar? People, rush the stage, grab Caesar's bloody body, bring him down here to this open square, take tables and chairs that already start to get set up in the Senate building that wasn't even finished yet, make a makeshift pyre, burn him on the spot, sending him body, soul, and spirit straight to the gods, a fate reserved for heroes. Who loves Caesar? Man, everybody loves Caesar. His will opened up, held by the Vestals. Mark Antony shining up his sandals because he figures he's going to be adopted as the son and made the heir, which was not uncommon. Whoops. It's Caesar's 18-year-old great-nephew, asthmatic, pimply, brilliant Octavian, named heir. Mark Antony, oh great, now we gotta make nice with the rich kid. Nominally, it's a triumvirate they share with another general, but effectively it's two of them sharing power. Mark Antony goes down to Egypt, rules the eastern half of the empire. Octavian cuts his political teeth right here in Rome. First thing he does, lop off 300 senatorial heads and, pushing 1,000 other sympathizers, just to show that just because he's a kid doesn't mean you're going to push him around. Not too long before Octavian and Mark Antony start arguing over money. About 15 years after these events, they meet at the Battle of Actium. Caesar, or because he's adopted the name Caesar, Octavian Caesar. Now, his right-hand man, Marcus Agrippa, meets Mark Antony and Cleopatra at the Battle of Actium off the east coast of Greece, In 31 BC, they're defeated. Octavian, left alone to rule an empire just a few years later, an emasculated Senate confers upon him the title of Augustus. We know him as Caesar Augustus. All power held in the hands of one man, executive, legislative, judicial. Ushers in the longest and most profound period of peace within the empire that Rome had ever known into modern times. We call it the Pax Romana. So who was right? Caesar was right, Octavian was right. These guys were crooks in the name of the Republic. They were enslaving their own people virtually. Who was right? Well, the senators were right. The institutions of Republic are a joke, paving the way for the abuses of the Caligulas and the Neros. Do the ends justify the means? Well, that's a question Western society's been asking itself for a very, very long time. How do you balance freedom and security? When do the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few and one? Doesn't work. It's tricky. The way in which we frame those questions, the way in which we agonize over those answers, is directly related to the way that our political minds have been framed because of events that took place right where we're standing just over 2,000 years ago. Very rarely can we draw those kind of specific ties. Right here, Octavian, as Augustus, builds a temple to the first deified leader of Rome. A civic leader of Rome made a god after his death. The god Julius. The temple to Julius Caesar, built right over the spot where he was cremated. And he erects a little pile of rocks, builds a temple around it. You go back there and you still see that pile of rocks. In a couple of days, you'll see a pile of flowers on top of that pile of rocks. Every society has ways of bubbling up its discontent. This is just a way that Romans have been doing it. Yeah. After lunch, they come back over here, the men take their cigars and their Bud Lights, go down, watch the games, and ignore their wives. The wives stay up here and sip mimosas and complain about the inadequacies of their husbands, and nothing has changed in 2,000 years. The same thing is true in the Forum. That whole valley of the Forum was under, at the lowest point, 60 feet of earth. We don't start systematically digging that out until 1888. And we'll look down and think, gosh, why is this all that's left? I look at it and think, my God, I can't believe there's this much left. The only reason there is that much left is because it was underground and protected.